On Thursday, April 15, 2021, Victorian Police received a call from the distraught relatives of Melbourne woman Maryam Hamka. The 36-year-old had seemingly vanished without a trace. As detectives set up a task force to investigate Hamka's out-of-character disappearance, her relatives grew increasingly anxious that something sinister had happened to a beloved daughter, sister, and aunt. The Brunswick woman left the family home on Barclay Street early afternoon, Saturday, April 10th, picked up in a car driven by a male companion. The driver was Toby Loughnane, the 45-year-old on-off boyfriend of Miss Hamka. Maryam's mother, Susan Iramayan, had pleaded with her not to go. Tragically, Maryam called out to her adoring mum, "I'll be all right." It would be the last time Susan ever saw her daughter alive. In a missing persons appeal launched mere hours after her disappearance was reported, Detective Inspector Andrew Stamper said there were significant concerns for Miss Hamka's welfare. Expanding on the reasons for concern, Stamper added, "We know that her phone, social media, and bank accounts haven't been used since the previous weekend, which is highly unusual." A brief but violent relationship would ultimately end in every family's worst nightmare. Maryam Hamka, murdered by her abusive boyfriend. Justice for her family and Victorian Police would prove to be a long and arduous road. You're watching Pacific Crime TV. Please remember to subscribe, like, and enable notifications so you never miss a new release, providing you insight on the shocking murders, underworld hits, and organised crime groups shaking our cities. Chapter 1. A Timeline to Tragedy. Maryam Hamka was last captured on CCTV leaving a Coles grocery store in Brunswick on April 10th, the day after departing her family home, carrying a hold-all stuffed full of clothes. The couple met in December 2019. Loughnane, who hailed from the affluent Brighton suburbs in Melbourne, had worked ad hoc in construction, but had fallen into habitual drug use, and quickly the relationship grew toxic. As Victorian Police sought to build up a picture of Maryam's turbulent life in the months preceding her death, through witness statements from friends and family, the detectives learned of a troubling cocktail of allegations that aroused suspicion of Toby Loughnane. Police discovered that the couple fought routinely, with Loughnane exhibiting coercive and controlling behaviours. Alcohol, drug misuse and domestic abuse peppered the relationship. Loughnane actively sought to prohibit Hamka from speaking to other men. On April 18th, just over a week after Maryam's disappearance, police moved in and Loughnane was taken into custody from his Brighton home, arrested on suspicion of aggravated assault charges relating to an incident in December 2020. At the time of Loughnane's initial arrest, Maryam's younger brother spoke to journalists at The Age, Melbourne's daily masthead, detailing an unrelated attack by Loughnane on Hamka after he found messages on Maryam's phone from another man. Hassan Hamka broke down, admitting, "I saw her face after. I couldn't look at her. He had bashed her black and blue." Hassan further confirmed to reporters his family sought to involve police due to concerns for Maryam's welfare, but that she had pleaded with them to do nothing. "A lot of our family members were trying to talk with the police. Maryam was so scared, so she would call up the police and say, 'He didn't do this to me.' Maryam was so scared of him, so terrified." Upon Loughnane's arrest, police executed a search warrant at his Wells Street home and recovered a laptop and further impounded a black Mitsubishi SUV and a red Mazda sedan. The vehicles would prove central to the investigation. Police also recovered a mobile phone belonging to Hamka and an area of blood-stained carpet, which was cut and taken away for forensic profiling. Loughnane would be held on remand and appeared via video link before Melbourne Magistrates Court on April 30th. He made no application for bail and would next appear before the courts on June 4th. At this juncture, Victorian Police knew they were in a race against time to unearth the evidence that Loughnane was responsible for Hamka's disappearance, or he could be freed, pending further inquiries. Chapter 2. Living with a Monster. Maryam Hamka's disappearance was covered extensively by national media, despite the lack of progress on the missing persons case. Through to July 2021, Australia has faced an endemic rise in domestic violence cases in recent years, and the Hamka case was headline news. A grim 3-month milestone passed without a trace of Maryam. Grief-stricken friends and families continued to shed light on her disappearance on social media and through press interviews. Loughnane would next appear before court in July 2021, but police remained unwavering. He should not be released. Opposing bail, Senior Constable Callan Turner provided an update into the police's investigation of assault charges. Hamka had allegedly fled her partner's home on the morning of July 9, 2020, and sought the help of a worker unloading groceries at a nearby supermarket. The witness observed Hamka was crying, had blood dripping from her nose, and told the worker her boyfriend had assaulted her and that he was going to kill her. Expanding, Turner informed the court Hamka was taken to hospital and photographs were taken of her battered face and injuries. Hamka told hospital staff her boyfriend had assaulted her, but did not name Loughnane or make a police statement. Further, that Hamka's mother and sister confirmed they saw Maryam with 2 black eyes, bruising and a burst blood vessel in her right eye earlier that day. They had warned Maryam that Loughnane was hunting for her. As police sought to extend Lougnane's custody, Turner noted police believed there were numerous other unreported incidents of alleged violence between the pair. The court also heard evidence that Hamka's mother had told police her daughter had described Loughnane allegedly placing a garbage bag over her head while punching her on one occasion. And while visiting a friend in Brunswick, Loughnane had allegedly chased Hamka into a bathroom whilst holding a serrated knife in his hand. Constable Turner admitted to officials Hamka's family were also extremely terrified of Loughnane and fearful of retribution. Police confirmed Loughnane was not charged in relation to Maryam's disappearance, but that the police were convinced he had something to do with it, and, in opposing bail, that he's not shown any remorse or assisted police whatsoever in attempting to locate her. Magistrate Fran Medina denied bail and Loughnane was scheduled to return to court in October. But in a major breakthrough, the Victorian Police's Missing Persons Detectives Unit formally charged Loughnane with 1 count of murder on August 26, 2021. And, in a stunning twist, they believe he did not act alone. Chapter 3. The Accomplice. In early September, 26-year-old pool cleaner Oscar Newman was arrested and charged with assisting an offender. The pair were acquainted through Newman's brother. Detectives from the Missing Persons Squad alleged in court Loughnane enlisted the help of Newman to clean the crime scene because of a significant gambling debt owed to him, amounting $45,000. Police suspected Loughnane allegedly murdered Hamka on April 11, a day after she was last seen at his Brighton home. Police recovered CCTV footage showing Newman was at the address for 5 hours on April 12, when police believe the body was inside the house. Investigators further believe the body was moved in the early hours of April 13th and that Newman loaned his red Mazda to Loughnane, who used this vehicle to dispose of Hamka's remains. A forensic examination identified the presence of Hamka's blood in the car. On April 12th, recovered CCTV footage showed Newman arriving at the address with a steam cleaner and petrol cans. He stayed the night, during which time police alleged Newman assisted Loughnane cleaning up the murder scene. The purchase of a steam cleaner was arranged by Newman on Gumtree. With the subsequent search warrants on Lougnane's Brighton home on April 16th, recovering steam cleaners as well as bottles of ammonia and bleach. Senior Detective Stewart advised the court police believed there was a high probability that Mr. Newman knew the location of Maryam's body. The court denied bail initially, but the decision was reversed a month later in October 2021, despite police protests that Newman could seek to move or interfere with the body and intimidate witnesses. With Loughnane on remand and Newman bailed under strict curfew and reporting conditions, Melbourne detectives worked diligently to pull together the case that would necessitate a conviction. It would be July 2022 in a pre-trial hearing that further major developments in the case aired to assembled media. Police, on executing the search warrant at Lochnane's Brighton home, detailed they had observed areas of the apartment freshly plastered and painted. Areas of the carpet were also wet through, and the house bore an overpowering scent of cleaning products. Cigarette butts were recovered in the ashtray of the Mitsubishi SUV, matching Hamka's DNA. Magistrate Joanna Metcalf confirmed there was enough evidence for the accused pair to stand trial. Lochnane continued to deny any involvement in Maryam's disappearance, pleading not guilty on murder charges. As the case readied to go before the Supreme Court, however, Lochnane had a sobering change of heart. Through his lawyer, Lochnane relayed to detectives where Maryam's body could be found. Hamka had been buried in a shallow grave in isolated bush on the Mornington Peninsula, an hour's drive south of Melbourne. After police failed to find her remains, Lochnane accompanied officers to the site and identified landmarks indicating her burial location. On Monday 7th August 2023, Victorian Police, utilising a drone with special scanning capabilities, located human remains in the peninsula. Finally, Maryam's grieving family could lay her to rest. It would be the following year at Lochnane's murder trial, however, that the harrowing levels of depravity and domestic violence suffered by Hamka would be truly laid bare to the family and public. Chapter 4. Trial and Sentencing. The Supreme Court trial commenced on May 2024. Lochnane pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of negligent manslaughter, but his plea was denied as prosecutors pushed for a murder conviction. The catalogue of abuse suffered by Hamka was as wicked jurors in Australia had ever sat through. Lochnane's own barrister conceded this in closing evidence, stating, "It would be a natural response for the jury to react with hatred towards Lochnane after hearing evidence of past threats. I'm also quite certain now that as you sit there, you probably have desires and innate feelings of hatred and enmity towards Mr. Lochnane after what you've heard. It's most unpleasant." The trial heard Lochnane filmed a distressing video mocking and degrading his slain girlfriend, crying and naked from the waist down in the hours before she was murdered. In text messages read before the court, Lochnane made a further series of bone-chilling threats, including, "I'm so angry. Wait till I get my hands on you. I'm going to split your skull. I would kill you if I had you here." And, "I'm going to cut your head off." In other exchanges, Lochnane further warned, "I will beat you beyond recognition to within 2 inches of your life. You better hope the cops come for your sake. I'll literally kill you. And I'll go to jail just to see you suffer, you dog. You're dead," prosecutors alleged. Alongside the volley of odious texts sent by Lochnane, the court also heard evidence from police and witnesses of the extreme physical violence inflicted by Lochnane on Hamka. On one previous occasion, he threw a ladder at Hamka before grabbing her by the hair and repeatedly kicking and punching her in front of a mutual friend. In another episode, jurors learned Lochnane threatened to kill her and a male friend, Shane Allen, over their friendship, texting Allen a photo of a pistol captioned, "I'll get you, I swear." Lochnane also pursued Hamka in a car, followed her into her family home, and threatened her friends and family. Tragically, the court heard Maryam was successfully granted a family violence order against Lochnane a month prior to her death, but it was not enough to repel an increasingly erratic Lochnane from physically and verbally attacking the young woman. Jurors also learnt Lochnane would drive by the Hamka family residence in Brunswick routinely, intimidating the family and keeping watch on the house. The court heard evidence by Lochnane's neighbours that on April 10th, after midnight, the cries of a distressed female voice, sobbing and screaming, were heard until 3 a.m. It was about this time prosecutors allege that Lochnane killed Hamka. After this, police believe Lochnane engaged in a series of actions to conceal his girlfriend's death. Phone records would show that Lochnane removed the SIM card from Hamka's phone at 4:45 a.m. that morning and put it in his own. Crown Prosecutor Churchill said Hamka's friends received messages written with words and spelling inconsistent with the typical language that she would use, noting, "This was the start of a series of actions by the accused which is designed to distance himself from the murder and attempt to cover it up." Oscar Newman, purported accomplice, was then called to give evidence. Newman confirmed he knocked on the door on April 11 after Loughnane contacted him saying he was withdrawing and needed drugs, and when no one answered, he let himself in with a key and headed upstairs. Newman observed, "I looked down and noticed there appeared to be blood on the carpet at the bottom of the stairs and blood on the bottom steps, with more on the wall." Newman said he was calling out Loughnane and Hamka's names as he headed up the steps, but received no response. Entering Lougnane's room, he saw clothes on the bed, feces on the floor, as well as paraphernalia used to take the drug GHB. Newman confirmed, "I peered into the bathroom and saw Maryam naked in the corner of the shower, only taking a quick look because she was naked, and in belief she had passed out with her knees up and head against the wall. Her face looked swollen, as if stung by a bee, and her skin yellowed." She didn't respond when he called out, and Newman went on to find Loughnane, who was passed out, fully dressed, in another bedroom. "I tried to wake him up, and he appeared to have had too much GHB, Newman confirmed. Newman decided to let Loughnane sleep it off and left, returning the next day because he was worried about the pair. He saw Loughnane out the front and asked what was going on. Loughnane told me pretty quickly that Maryam had overdosed, and I told him to call an ambulance, but he didn't. He just kept saying, "I can't. I'll get done for manslaughter." Newman also asked whether he had hit Hamka because of the blood he had seen on the stairs, but Loughnane didn't respond. Newman said he believed that Hamka was still in the bathroom when he returned to Lougnane's on April 12. He said that on that day, he gave Loughnane the keys to his car and they parted ways. "It crossed my mind that he'd have to move the body," Newman admitted at court, and added that he also gave Loughnane $150. Police then alleged that Loughnane made a series of solo trips to and from his Brighton home over the ensuing 48 hours, where he disposed of Hamka's body in Cape Schanck on the Mornington Peninsula in the early hours of April 13th. The prosecution believed Loughnane dug the shallow grave with his bare hands and covered Hamka's body in lime before burying her. Hamka's badly decomposed body at the time of recovery was found in a grave filled with lime in shrubland. Prosecutor Churchill identified during the autopsy that fractures were later found on Ms. Hamka's bones, including to her eye socket, nasal bones, and behind her ear. Loughnane maintained that Hamka had died of a GHB drug overdose, but admitted to disposing of a body and obstructing an investigation. Prosecutor Christy Churchill told the jury it was not a reasonable possibility that Hamka had died of a drug overdose, and instead Loughnane fatally assaulted his partner with murderous intent. The jury's deliberations lasted 48 hours before reaching an emphatic guilty verdict on Friday 28 June 2024. Loughnane stood emotionless as the verdict was read. Loughnane now faces life imprisonment for the killing that repulsed Australia. The Hamka family, speaking outside court, told assembled reporters they were glad to finally have justice for Maryam, adding, "He's a murderer, coward, and got what he deserved." The tireless efforts of Victorian Police providing closure for a shattered family and putting a monster where he deserves, behind bars. Thanks for watching the channel. Please remember to like, share and comment if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe so you never miss a new release on Pacific Crime TV.